tweets. Aaron Blake, senior reporter for The Washington Post, joins us now from their D.C. newsroom. So, Aaron, what do you make of these tweets?
Well, I think the most notable thing about these tweets is that he still seems to have a little bit of a sore spot about the whole losing the popular vote thing. These are tweets that are very similar to ones that he sent out shortly after the election. This is an argument, of course, that some on the left can't let go of, and they keep saying it in an effort to, I think he believes, delegitimize him as president, and he's going to fight back. He's always going to fight back against things. I do think it's important to note he's got a bit of a point here. This is an electoral college system that we have in this country. The candidates run the campaign according to that system. They don't run the campaign to win the popular vote. So it's just a different campaign. We don't know necessarily what would have happened if we did have a popular vote campaign that wasn't so focused on 10 to 12 individual states. So he's got a little bit of a point, but I think it's notable here that, you know, here we are a month and a half after Election Day, and the popular vote thing still kind of seems to get his goat a little bit.
I want to ask you about security. We know that Donald Trump is going to receive a presidential daily briefing today. He's going to also be meeting with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. That's his pick for the National Security Advisor. And we know the other day Trump was very quick to weigh in on the attacks in Germany and Turkey. He described them as terror, and then he attributed both to radical Islamic terrorism. Some have questioned whether the Trump administration really have any sort of clear set foreign policy goals or strategies. And we know your colleague, James Hohmann, wrote about Trump embracing Richard Nixon's madman theory. But do you agree with that assessment about this whole madman theory that Trump might be approaching?
You know, I think calling it the madman theory is applying a label to it that maybe the Trump transition team wouldn't like. But I certainly think that they have embraced the idea of a degree of unpredictability. I don't know if they want to take it as far as madman. That's you know, that certainly casts him in a certain light. But you know, back early in the campaign, Trump basically said, "I have a plan to defeat ISIS, but I'm not going to share that plan because I don't want to tip off the enemy." He's basically used this strategy when it comes to China. The tweets about you know, Taiwan, his phone call to Taiwan's leader, that some have credited for resolving that diplomatic dispute. You know, there is certainly some utility in not having people know what you're going to do, what you're capable of as president. And I guess if you've got such an unorthodox style, which Donald Trump does, you may as well embrace that to a certain extent. On the other hand, I think it can be used as a kind of excuse for not really having any direction in your foreign policy. If you just say, I'm trying to keep it secretive, I'm not trying to tip anybody off, some people may just look at that as you saying, you know, I don't really know what my policy is, so I'm just going to kind of make it up on the fly. And that's certainly been a big concern with Trump so far.
And it's very common that a new president comes in and has a different take than the previous president, particularly in foreign policy. We saw President Obama do that with Iran, a very different take. But we just don't know much about his Russia foreign policy. Is there a sense of the people surrounding him, particularly General Flynn, the other folks that will be surrounding him, as to where his thinking may be going on foreign policy issues?
The Russia question is the big one that's dominated the conversation about his foreign policy since the beginning. You know, it was something that he hasn't sought to downplay. He's always said he wants better relations with Vladimir Putin. He's always suggested that that's a door that he'd like to keep open a little bit more. When people said that he was too favorable to Putin, he didn't really back off of that too much. You know, I think if you look at the people who he's surrounding himself with, whether it's Michael Flynn, whether it's Rex Tillerson, his Secretary of State pick, it's clear that this is part of his approach, that he would like to be at least a little bit friendlier with Russia. The question is how far he takes that, and certainly it's going to cause some alarm for even Republicans in Congress when he tries to move in that direction. But, you know, to look at it right now, it certainly seems like it's a matter of degree and not whether he's going to do it.
Speaking of ISIS, too, is the fact that we haven't heard much communication between Trump's transition officials and the Pentagon regarding defeating ISIS as being a top priority for Russia. It really is not a top priority for Russia. So is the absence of Russia from the list alarming some in Washington, that they aren't involved in those conversations?
Yeah, I think it certainly could be. The call to Taiwan is something that worried people in the foreign policy community. Certainly the entire stature towards Russia is something that has raised alarm bells in the foreign policy community. This is going to be a long-standing thing. It's hard to shake up the system when there are people who have been in place in that system for a long time. And so Donald Trump may have a different foreign policy than Obama. That shouldn't be surprising, but he's also got a different foreign policy than decades worth of protocol when it comes to issues like Taiwan and China. And getting out from beneath all of that staid protocol over all those years that's been established is not going to be an easy thing, and there's going to be plenty of consternation about it. So I think it's certainly something that his administration is going to be spending a lot of time on going forward.
Aaron, we've heard a lot also about new questions surrounding a conflict of interest. This time, it's the post-inauguration fundraiser that critics are attacking the president-elect for. What's the issue here, and who polices these conflict of interest? Is there a bureau or an office or a division in Washington that might be tracking whether there are these ties to his businesses that he could be profiting from while being president of the United States?
Well, the problem in this case, as far as oversight, watchdogs keeping watch over the president, is that the president is not subject to the same kind of ethics rules as members of Congress and even members of his own transition team are. If you look at members of his transition team, they're not allowed to have outside employment, have money coming in from outside sources. This came up when Trump was announced as an executive producer of the Celebrity Apprentice, the new season of the Celebrity Apprentice. So the fact that he is the president means that there's not a whole lot on the books that seems to be ready to kind of take him on if he wants to press these conflicts of interest beyond where other presidents have gone. And so that really raises a whole lot of issues, and basically it's up to the American people to decide whether they care a whole lot about these things. And I think at least so far the verdict on that has been that Trump supporters largely don't care about these things, and I think until they do, it's not really going to be a huge problem for him.
Aaron Blake, it's going to be a fascinating 4 years for you, Aaron, from your perch. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.